Hi, kindergarten. It's Mrs. Crosswhite. I'm here with your art lesson for the week. So we are actually going to be making a paper weaving. If you look through the presentation, you saw that weaving actually happens in a lot of different ways with yarn and fabric and all kinds of things. But we're going to be using paper. So this is what you need. You're going to need 2 pieces of paper. Colored paper works best, but if you have to use white paper, that's fine. Sometimes it's better if they're 2 very different colors. So I'm using red and yellow. Glue bottle or a glue stick. Either one will work, so that's not a big deal. And we need a pair of scissors, and crayons are optional. You don't have to have crayons. Now, this first part of the video is for your parents, that your parents are going to need to help with. So you're going to take, parents, you're going to take 1 piece of paper. It should be a rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on its side, and I'm going to fold it in half and make sure there's a nice crease. You're going to help me prepare this first part for your child. So this is the loom. This is what they're going to weave on. So here's the open part here at the top and the fold at the bottom. I like to take a pen or a pencil real quick and make little marks so I know where I'm cutting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need actually an even number of sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my last one might be a little wide. So I might actually trim that piece of the paper just a little bit because I like to keep it even. But you want an even number of sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm good. So I'm going to take my scissors, and grown-ups, this is where we have to cut up and be careful and then stop about 1 inch from the top. And then I'm going to cut up again. And again, if they're not perfectly even, it's okay. We just want to make them close. If you want to use a ruler for this, you're more than welcome to. But I figured for today, for our first week, we can keep things kind of simple. So I'm going to cut straight up again. And I hope you guys have all been having some time to draw or paint or do a little bit of something creative. I know sometimes being cooped up at home makes things a little hard. All right, and then my last one. All right, parents, almost done, I promise. So we're going to open this up, and this is your loom. So it should look like this, has slits through it. Now, we're going to take the second piece of paper. I'm going to lay them on top. So now I want to cut slits so we can weave, or not slits, strips, I'm sorry. They can be about 1 inch. If you've got like a paper cutter at home and you can make this a little faster, go right ahead. But good old scissors work too. So I'm going to keep cutting about 1 inch wide, parents. So that way they're not too thin and it makes them a little bit easier to manipulate. Now, I'm going to go ahead and finish up. Normally I cut the whole piece of paper, but save a little bit of time, I will probably stop right about here. So I have my strips and I have my loom. Now, a lot of art has patterns. These patterns are very important because they're A-B patterns. So boys and girls, I hope we're listening to this part. So an A-B pattern goes A, B, A, B. Another example of that would be 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, for this, it's going to be a pattern of colors. So I want to make a pattern of red, yellow, red, yellow. So I'm going to start by taking my strip and going over, boys and girls, over, and then under, over, and under, over, and under. I'm going to go all the way across. And when I look at the top of my paper, or my loom, I see I have yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red. I've made an A-B pattern. I've done exactly what I need to do. Now, the tricky part is keeping that pattern going down all the way the length of my loom. So when I start my second strip, I look at the top. This was yellow. I can't have 2 yellows next to each other. So I'm going to go under with my second strip first. So I have red, then yellow. And I'm going to keep my pattern of over, under, just like an A-B pattern, just over and under. And there's my second piece. And I'm going to keep doing this all the way down until I run out of paper or I run out of space. You can do this with multiple colors of paper if you have it. Don't feel like you have to stick with just one. If you wanted to, if you have some other colors and you wanted to ask mom or dad to cut strips for you, those, you can do that too. So what you're going to end up noticing is that your pattern turns into what looks like almost a checkerboard or a chessboard. So that's how you know you've got your pattern correct. So this is the interesting thing about weaving. We see an A-B pattern going across, and we see an A-B pattern going down. That's how we know we have this correct. Now, as I keep going, eventually, like I said, if you needed to use other pieces of paper, or if you needed to get really creative, you could even use like magazine paper, anything at all that you have around the house that you could do this with. And if you're really lucky, even if you wanted to get super creative, you could substitute something like yarn or string into this. Anything to get that idea of pattern. We're sticking with our A-B patterns because we're making that connection to math also. So, as I keep going, let's say I've run out of space. So I've run out of strips, my loom is full. This was my last one. Now comes the assembly part. Fix that piece. So here's my weaving. I've got my A-B patterns going across and up and down. Now, this is where your glue comes in because these pieces still kind of wobble. So if we want to secure this, you can do this with a glue stick too. What you do is on the sides, not in the center, just in the sides, you make a small dot of glue. Now, like I said, you can also use a glue stick, so you could just make a little circle of glue if you had to. And you press it down. And I'm going to do this, whoops, a little too much there, on each side. Now remember, we always want raindrops, not puddles. You never want puddles of glue. Puddles are for rain, not for glue. Now, I'm going to do that same thing on the other side, just to secure my pieces. And remember, you can just make a circle of glue with a glue stick if you want. Just make sure you press your paper down nice and firm so your strips don't come apart. Now, you could just stop here if you wanted to, but I'm going to show you some variations. So if you want to stop here, you can. Or if you want to stick with me for another minute or two, there's a couple other things you can do. I said crayons were optional, so if we want to reinforce this idea of A-B patterns, we can pick a couple different colors. So colors we don't have yet. So purple is a good one for this, and blue. I can start adding shapes and designs to my weaving. So for example, on every yellow, I could add something like a purple triangle and start adding some pattern and actually a little extra color to our weaving too. So I could do purple triangles and then blue circles. So purple triangle, blue circle, purple triangle, blue circle. To make my A-B patterns a little bit more layered and complex. That is one variation. Let's say you don't want to do quite that. What you can do is you can actually grab additional scraps of paper. And like I said, it doesn't have to be all the same color, but we've got to use what we have, right? And you want to cut some thin strips of paper. And you can actually weave these going up and down also to make a layered weaving as opposed to just a single weaving. So that's just a little bit of extra if you want to add that to your weaving. I hope you guys are doing well. If you guys have any questions about how to do this, make sure your parents ask me. I'd be happy to help. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope to see some pictures of your artwork soon.